Welcome back to the European LCS Summer Playoffs. Schalke 04 have a lead against Splyce, and after an insane ending to that first game, we're ready for more action in Game 2.
It's going to be a good one. We were talking a little bit about changes in the draft, and I think we were all in alignment that the draft from Splyce was solid.
Yeah.
They found a good early game lead. It was just that mid game they wanted to see a little bit more from them in.
Especially around the mid lane, getting Nisqy on Syndra worked out really well for them, securing that first kill with the gang, and then he got the second kill on his own, which gave them that huge advantage, which gave them 3 Infernal Drakes. Like, you often can't ask for a lot more.
Yep.
But obviously what ended up happening in the late game was Nukeduck became a split pusher on the rise. No one could stop him. He set up actually the dead inhips, which then led to the back door.
Now, what interests me is that Schalke have banned away the Rise. They seem to put a lot of focus on this in this series, given that they first pick it when they're red side, but now they've actually chosen to ban it away.
And will they now first pick Sejuani for Amazing, or is it a Braum for VandeR? It was grabbed first pick by kaSing in the last game. It's some of those key comfort picks we're definitely going to be looking at. I think the Trundle didn't do a whole lot for me in the last game.
Something that's still available as well, I was going to say, was the Akali. Schalke deciding to ban that on the blue side, as Splyce did in the last game.
I feel like, again, that tells me the Sejuani first pick or the Braum first pick is what they're looking for, and they don't want to trade suddenly a Braum for an Akali on the other side, which is why they end up banning what's normally considered good picks for Schalke.
And the important thing that we've got to remember is kaSing's most played support is Tahm Kench, and one of the champions that was considered pretty good into things like the Braum. Now, he had a big nerf this patch, for those that may not be aware. His role of support is now much harder, especially with the big nerf to his consume. So we've been kind of thinking about and wondering what other answers are there to Braum. And for kaSing, some of those ranged options could be a possibility, but
there it
we also
is.
talked about the Sion being left open. Splyce immediately locked that one in.
Yeah, because it was banned in the very first game by Schalke on red side, which instantly suddenly screams to us that this champ must be considered extremely strong, seeing as you're banning it in your very first game, and now in first rotation it gets locked in now. This should still be a flex pick. Like, you can play top mid. I mean, I wonder if we're even going to see it support. Potentially, it's been played in the past, but it feels like a mid or top lane pick to me.
I feel like it's more likely going to be towards top. Whenever I think of Odo's champ pool, I do feel like Sion is one of those that kind of fits into that role, offers pressure in a side lane, has a strong laning phase as well, and has really good roam capabilities, which means that they could look to play around that mid lane, using that ulti to roam down and enable Nisqy more.
So Leblanc gets locked in very early on in the draft, which might be a surprise, but if you look at the mid lane bans with Ryze and Akali, with Zoe being nerfed on this patch quite a lot, she's actually been nerfed multiple times now. She's kind of fallen out of the tier 1, and Leblanc has kind of returned. A lot of mid laners have figured out that she is fantastic right now, and with Akali and Ryze banned away, which are some of the other top tier picks, I think Nukeduck is saying this is actually the best available mid laner left. I want to grab it now, and I don't think there's anything Splyce can pick against it that's really going to shut me down. That's probably a Morgana support.
Yeah. Probably a Morgana support, yeah.
Chuck the Morgana into support means we're probably going to see Sion in the top lane, Trundle in the jungle, still got AD carry or bot laner, and that mid pick left for Splyce. Schalke, on the other hand, looking towards their top and jungle picks. That said, Sejuani off the cards, Trundle taken away as well, so we're going to have to see where Amazing goes next.
I feel like Splyce should look to just ban some of the weak matchups against Trundle now. Kindred and Graves are 2 strong options that you could go towards. I've heard rumblings of things like a Skarner also being relevant in the current meta as a potential option to Trundle. From what I've been, when talking to pros, often many of them say that things like Skarner, Olaf, and Gragas are the big 3. But Gragas is another potential ban that Splyce could look to take away. We did see Xerxe pick that matchup into the Trundle last game, and I think that with his disengaged tools, it can make it harder for Trundle to really execute in the mid game.
I just want to see if they do go Gragas against the Black Shield of Morgana, and then against 2 tanks in Trundle and Sion. Who do you really want to ult? Like, if you're trying to reach the back line, luckily it's AoE based, so there's obviously ways you can get around the Black Shield, but this Morgana pick specifically for kaSing, it's actually the old Splyce style. Counter pick support with a range support that is here to protect Kobbe in the late game. Now, it might also be protecting Nisqy, but this is kaSing back in his element, and why I think red side makes a lot of sense also for Splyce.
Definitely does. They picked it this champion select, but we do see the Jhin and the Varus ban here from Schalke. It's going to force Kobbe onto a second. Whoa! It's going to force Kobbe onto Varus.
Okay.
Let's go. Come on.
This is not something I was expecting, but we talked about how kaSing is often picked into the Ezreal because you get a bit of a free laning phase. typically Vayne for back in the day, I don't know, thinking like Season 4, used to look for those free laning phases, matchups where you didn't get punished that hard. Kobbe is saying that I'm more than happy to pick this into the Ezreal.
But I think on the side of Schalke, while Vayne is insane and awesome, they're like, great, we have our best champions for our support, our AD carry, and our top laner, and we have the best mid lane available for Nukeduck. Like, this draft for Schalke is actually absolutely insane in terms of comfort. Yeah. They're just missing the Sejuani in the jungle. They get a Gragas, it's another tank for them. But the Vayne is still the highlight, because if you can pull off Vayne, if you get out of that laning phase, suddenly you can be such a powerhouse, and you're good against strong frontliners.
You definitely are. Schalke on Braum, Poppy, and Ezreal have a combined 20 wins and 3 losses. Now, a lot of those are the same games.
Of course.
But it doesn't sound as exciting if I say they've won 6 games.
Oh, Nisqy.
Cassiopeia for Nisqy in the mid lane. It was an option we talked about. And Vedius, I know you have a lot to say about the snake.
Well, we have to start off by looking at this highlight reel from Nisqy in the third place match last split, where he found himself in a 1 versus 5 and secured 2 kills. You talked about comfort picks on the side of Schalke. This is a huge comfort pick for Nisqy as well. And like, when you look at the Splyce draft, Xerxe getting his hands on Trundle, he was the man that brought Trundle into the meta here in Europe. Morgana, a range support for kaSing, a peel focus support that he often excels at. I feel like Splyce have drafted themselves a lot of comfort as well, and I feel like we've got 2 comfort versus comfort going on, and I feel like we're in for some pretty exciting team fights.
And Kobbe has been a pro player for 3 years. This is only the 2nd time he's playing Vayne. The first time he did win with it, had a 1.5 KDA, did absolutely nothing. This game he's definitely hoping for more impact, but if he's not doing it, then you can look towards the mid lane. I guess Black Shield and Cassiopeia is not too bad either.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Run into the midst of them all, hop down that petrifying gauge. We talked a little bit about the specific champions and how they're comfortable for both these teams. I want to zoom it out, talk about win conditions. What are these teams looking to do in this game?
Well, for Schalke, you're looking to get an advantage in the mid lane. Leblanc is all about early to mid game power. If she can generate pressure, she can use it to roam around to the side lanes, and you can generally look to take a lot of these early towers very, very quickly. If you're not able to find that, she can struggle in the mid to late game, because she does have windows that you can look to abuse against the Black Shield that can often be challenging. And so I feel like Schalke are looking to get a lot of early game leads and then run off the back of that.
Because I want to add on to the Leblanc part here in terms of early game. It's just the gank setup is so strong. You have guaranteed mobility with your jump. You have chains against a target without a lot of mobility on the side of Nisqy. So there is a lot of good gank opportunities for Schalke. If you're on the side of Splyce, like, ideally your bot lane gets to just free farm. Like, you don't want Kobbe to fall behind, because that's always the problem about Vayne is no wave clear whatsoever. So the moment you start getting pushed under your turret, and if you can't actually fight back, you don't do anything. And you're kind of forced to sit in a side lane in the late game as well to continue catching farm, because you can't hold mid without wave clear. And that again is a problem, and why Vayne has so often not been considered a viable competitive pick. But if you're Splyce here,
game Deficio.
I know, you know, once you get to the point where you can actually melt through front lines and you find Upset alone and you kill him in 3 shots. Like, we've all been there, we've all faced the Vayne. She's one of the hardest champs to deal with if she is ahead. Getting her ahead, however, is pretty difficult. I think a lot of it comes down to protecting Nisqy in this case. And if he's actually winning mid, he will also therefore protect Kobbe and bot.
And I can't wait to see Kobbe in these late game fights. I really hope we get there, because we only have to think back to the Fnatic versus Splyce matchup, where it was largely Kobbe keeping them alive with Nisqy's help against Fnatic in those late game fights. His Varus was phenomenal, his positioning was great.
Oh, level 1.
Really good performance.
Nisqy just trading in here. Ignite goes down as well. Nukeduck might try and turn this one around. As the electrocute, whereas Nisqy running the phase rush and the barrier, so has held on to a summoner, going to heal up with that corrupted potion, but has gone through all of his charges.
Here we go! 2 junglers!
Is it Battle Royale in the mid lane? No, it's not. They walk away. Amazing comes back.
We just said this. We just talked about the mid lane in the early game, the gank setup around Leblanc. Obviously not level 1, but also Nisqy. If he's winning this mid lane, he protects the Vayne in the bottom lane, because Nukeduck can't leave. Nisqy can roam first. Such an exciting matchup between 2 of the best mid laners we have, and then 2 junglers getting Rift Scuttlers, potentially staying around for some ganks. Nukeduck going in for another one, wants the proc of the electrocute.
Now remember, we're going to take a look at some of the stats from Nisqy in Game 1. He had a phenomenal performance. 2 kills and assists at the 50-minute mark, one of those being a solo kill, a huge CS discrepancy by the 15-minute mark, and 1,300 gold in his favor. He played phenomenally, and Deficio, you talked a little bit about it last game, the playoff buff that we often see from this guy.
It's just when it really matters, and it's happened multiple times in his career. It's not just the last spring split. He did it over in North America in his first professional split as well for Team Envy, where when the team needed him to carry, he actually stepped up and he did it. He got them into playoffs. He did well in playoffs itself. And Nisqy was a player last split, but we didn't talk a lot about him during the regular season because he wasn't the big carry on Splyce. It was all about, you know, Kobbe or Odoamne trying to win them games until playoffs, and it was all about Nisqy. And this split, it's been all about Nisqy. And he's actually stayed at that top level. Had a good last game. He's the gank setup. See if they can force a flash. Answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is indeed no. Amazing. Not wanting to body slam underneath the tower when Nisqy still had both of his summoners up.
So one of the cool things as well about this matchup with Leblanc versus Cassio is that when Leblanc jumps in, the moment Nisqy has Miasma, it's really easy to punish her because Miasma prevents you from using any of your mobility escapes, which means that if you ever try to play too aggressive and the jungler is around, you could be punished very easily. The other big thing is that her abilities are pretty telegraphed. When Leblanc jumps forward, you know where she's going to jump back. Throw a Miasma on there, throw a poison on there. Your chances of landing those skill shots are much more in your favor.
Just want to bring everyone's attention to the fact that there is a point of view stream for this game as well. We're tracking Odoamne up in that top lane, twitch.tv/Riot Games 2. You can see
he's buying items.
Yeah, but he played the Sion. We haven't seen Sion since spring finals when Whippo played it and obviously won because they went 3-0. So yeah, there's something secret about this champion that perhaps we don't know.
It's really good in laning phase, and it's always been one of the best tanks in laning phase. And now on this patch as well, the W was buffed. He's getting more HP per minion he takes down, just increased by 1 of course.
Tankier.
He gets tankier, he gets more free stats from it. And I just want to see, because Sion is one of the tanks where you can be a big playmaker, but so is Puppey. It's just a little bit different. Puppey is the I'm going to knock you away from me and try and split you up in a fight or disengage the fight, where Sion is I'm going to all in you and then my team will follow up. But definitely two of the playmaking top laners. And I'm actually glad when it is a tank meta on top side that at least it's Puppey versus Sion.
Yes.
And not necessarily Marco versus Mundo every game.
And you only have to look at the stats from Vizicsacsi to know that this guy is known for his Poppy. I love some of the comments that I've read about it, like a Poppy Chachi skin should be made just because of how proficient he is on the champion. He was one of the OG players. He qualified back when Poppy was a weird champion to the LCS. He's been playing it really successfully throughout the split. He's had so many great highlight plays. And the matchup itself is quite interesting because you do have the W that interrupts dashes, but I do believe that the Sion ulti will ignore it and go through it anyway because it's unstoppable. But also you can use that unstoppable on the Sion to ignore the ulti on Poppy as well. So there are a couple of advantages in favor of the Sion in the matchup.
And the thing the Puppey W can block is a Vayne.
Yes.
What does Vayne want to do? Dash around, get out of this small, fights right there. Do not want to get bursted down and get a lot of time. Like if Chachi gets onto Kobbe, it's a big way of trying to protect him. But then suddenly kaSing is there to try and peel form with the Morgana. Like that's what I love about
Dem too.
It's true. Like there's a ways to get him away. Like there's just so many things in these pick and ban phases where it's like these small wins against each other. You try and like, oh, you get a Braum first pick, that's expected. But then look, we get the Sion that was banned in the first game. Let's see if Odoamne can actually carry on this champion. And they waited with that AD carry pick for second phase, seeing AD carry bans, preparing that Vayne.
And when you have teams with support staffs like both of these teams, experience, you look at Peter Dunn, Duke on the side of Splyce, Schalke, Andre, a massive support staff behind them as well. You expect to see these eccentricities come out in the draft. You expect the best of 5 to adapt, to evolve. And that's exactly what we're seeing coming into this game.
So we've talked a lot about many matchups across the board. Just very quickly, I want to talk about this bot lane matchup because it's a Vayne. And very rarely will you see, but so far in the laning phase, this is where she struggles the most. Very weak. Deficio, you commented on how she has very little wave clear. Her trading can be pretty good, but often against many melee bruiser supports, even then it can be difficult and you're forced to play defensively. But Ezreal really struggles to punish a Vayne in lane. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of a safer matchup. And so far in the laning phase, Kobbe has been doing pretty well. Interestingly though, he's rushing the BF sword. I would kind of expect a Blade of the Ruin King rush normally from the Vayne into then something like a Rage Blade.
I want to see if it is a Storm Racer rush, which I've seen quite a few times from Vayne. It's one of the newer things after Storm Racer became such a strong item that it's hard to ignore it if you want some sort of power spike on one item, where Blade, especially against other squishy targets, doesn't do a whole lot for you.
Makes sense.
But it obviously does delay a little bit of what Vayne wants to do later on in the game, because the thing about Storm Racer, fantastic when you get it, doesn't synergize that well with all the other items. Doesn't add a whole lot in terms of, you know, percentage. Doesn't add a whole lot in terms of crit that you actually want to get that multiplies with some of the other items. But I just want to see with Kobbe what ends up being the final build. It could just be Storm Racer and something like a Phantom Dancer on his side, which has been a typical
Could be a Rage
Vayne thing.
Blade second too, similar to what we see.
It's possible. Having looked through some of his past builds, he does like to go for the Storm Razor Infinity Edge Rapid Fire combo,
okay.
maybe into Mikura Scimitar
There you go.
at the end as well. So we will keep our eyes on that, as we keep our eyes on the junglers once again.
Yeah, and we also have to just keep eye on how does Splyce keep funneling farm towards him. They have not ganked his lane. We mentioned they don't have to. They can just let him farm, do nothing else. Xerxe just protecting mid all the time. That's all he's doing. Getting vision around mid for Cassiopeia here, making sure Amazing is not there, killing Nisqy. But once we get past the laning phase, getting farm on Vayne is difficult because you're sacrificing pressure on the map.
Yes.
As we highlight, she's slow at pushing. When she's pushing, other teams just go to the other lanes. They just go top side and say, fine, we kill your top lane, and instead you can't do a whole lot. So that's always a sacrifice. Nukeduck, though, not getting ahead in this game with the Leblanc. Should also say not falling behind like last game, so I guess that's a positive overall.
It's the first time we've seen him play LeBlanc this split. Again,
Another new champion.
Another unique champion for Nukeduck. He's sitting on 16 unique champions
Is there
now.
anything this man can't play?
Probably not. I mean,
Well, he did lose on some of these.
he's done some...
Hey, but he played them.
That's true. He's done some Riven mid back in Season 3, 4 as well, but the problem is the graphic is almost running out of space. We can move the Vlad up and add in the LeBlanc, and then we can't really allow him to play anything else unless you start putting him on the left side.
Every time I see this graphic, all I think of is that, you know, that meme, you know, where you slap the roof of the car and like, this bad boy is full of mid lane.
This mid lane is full of champions.
This guy, he very diverse. He's often the guy that just fills what the team needs. And on this LeBlanc so far, 10 minutes into the game, he hasn't found an early game advantage. And that's not the end of the world for LeBlanc. Once she gets one item is where you see some of her real strength, especially when she hits like level 9, level 11, when she gets a second point in her ulti. I want to see her then try and force a couple of plays.
I also think her late game is not as bad as a lot of people want it to be.
It's true.
The big problem is obviously how difficult she is to execute in team fights, because if you jump in at the wrong time, you jump into like a bunch of shields, you don't end up doing a whole lot, or you jump in, you get instantly CC'd, or you get taken out. But the fact that we are back to the W into ulti as a massive AoE combo can be huge in late game team fights, and her damage is of course very high. It's just harder to execute than maybe a Cassiopeia, where it's pretty straightforward of whoever's in front of me, I will shoot at them.
I think like vision control is really important in late game fights too, because she's always looking for flanks rather than to just group up with the team, use that mobility, and now we see a couple of ganks on the top side.
Jungler's going to meet in the top lane. Odoamne on the chase towards Sjokz. Explosive cast will knock them away. You can see Nukeduck trying to get up here, trying to join his team, but not really going to be able to do too much. Perhaps a tower dive in the offing though.
Oh, let's see, looking for another play. Amazing is stepping away, however, just as Nukeduck actually showed up on the top side. Amazing was like, nah, not going for anything aggressive here.
Nukeduck's fine though. He had the push in mid. There was a full minion wave running into Nisqy, so he's got plenty of time to make that move up, and he won't lose anything off the back of it. And it will give Amazing the opportunity to steal away some jungle camps, so small advantage gained, except for the fact that Sjokz did lose his flash.
While this is happening, the Schalke bot lane, while they're not winning a lot on CS, they are starting to really push into the turret here. They're starting to get some damage onto it. The Sheen plus tier back is great for Upset for actually some additional poke damage.
Nisqy.
Oh, he's sneaking down behind them.
kaSing is quite far back here, but Nisqy looking for that petrifying gauge. Kobbe on the chase as well. Miasma lands only onto the Braum. Upset's already jumped away. He'll use as well.
He gets a stun.
Petrifying gaze. Stare into the eyes of death. Upset as Splyce draw burst blood.
Really good setup, but now
Nukeduck! Oh, Kobbe just about shielded up. The Ignite's going to tick. Can he heal up to it? No. He is done for, and Schalke answer back.
So mid lane is trade kill for kill, but they're not done.
Nukeduck. Jump forward. Amazing has popped the stopwatch there. He'll be safe for the moment.
Ooh, close set of early game exchanges. This is the kind of playmaking we wanted to see, except we wanted to see it from
oh, he's coming back! He's on his way! Steadfast presence can't stop him. Chachi's going to knock him into the wall, actually, and the two tanks will continue to battle in the top lane. Chachi knows there's a teleport that is available here.
2 teleports.
Both of them coming in to join him. They're looking for this top tower. This actually might be a very good macro play once again from Schalke.
Right there, 12 minutes of almost nothing nothing happening, just farming back and forth into a bot lane fight, and then we get a lane swap from Schalke, grabbing the first turret of the game here. No way for Splyce to properly answer against it. Upset will secure this one. Wants to make sure he gets as much gold as possible as well.
One thing that we didn't know was the fact that the Vayne is running heal, and on many AD carries these days, they are looking to use the teleport, and one of the big advantages you do have is you can make these quick map movements, and Schalke looked to take advantage of that off the back of this bot lane play, where Nisqy, he came in from behind, bot lane was just very overextended from the side of Schalke, and Splyce had a really good chain CC to find themselves the other kill, but then Nukeduck joins the fight as we very quickly jump to a bit of a top lane skirmish.
Nukeduck gets enough damage on the Kobbe with the Ignite. Before that, obviously with Upset going down, even though he wasn't actually the initial target, he will be mad at himself for that one.
See, Xerxe did push in that wave, and then Odo had to teleport back in. Meant that they got a little bit more damage on that tower before the double teleport came out.
Classic tank versus tank action though. Just hitting each other a little bit, knocking each other away from the turret while everyone is fighting on the other side.
And remember guys, you can go watch this amazing tank-v-tank matchup on the Point of View stream.
Yeah, you can.
Do you have
Mid lane, mid lane.
I'm not going to talk about it because Nisqy has to flash away from the explosive cast. Nukeduck jumps back forward. Nisqy! Oh my goodness, that was perfect! Nukeduck doesn't die to the poison, but Nisqy somehow survives.
Insane play right there from Nisqy. Perfectly timed ulti, almost kills Nukeduck. Corruption potion was ticking the entire time, making sure he did not die. Suddenly this game it's heating up, you know, both teams actually forcing plays against each other. We're out of the laning phase. Kobbe, Stormrazor is completed. He only has an assist, didn't get the kill from before. Let's see if we get another fight around the Rift Herald.
Now, 4 members of Splyce are around this objective. Nukeduck was forced back after a great outplay from the side of Nisqy, but Schalke don't want to give up this objective for free.
Rift Herald there, down to about 1,000 HP. Look at that, Amazing's been stunned up into the wall. He can't get away from this one. kaSing stopwatches himself to keep himself safe. Amazing's down. Rift Herald goes down as well. Splyce. kaSing?
Wait, who secured the Rift Herald?
No one yet.
But they have to pick it up.
Wait,
unless somehow Schalke got it. Unless somehow Upset landed a Mystic shot. They must have done. Schalke must have stolen away the Rift Herald in the midst of it all because they are looking to try and take this Herald emblem if they can. Upset jumps across the wall. Nisqy, one more shot for the concussive blows. That is a chain from Nukeduck. Lands the root, and Nisqy's not in the best of spots here at all. He's shut down. Odo with the blank now. Perhaps the Rift Herald's been a little bit of a bait. Upset knocked into the wall. Kobbe on the chase. The Vayne spotting has begun. He gets one. kaSing caught off towards the side as well. A counter trade, and VandeR eventually picks up the Herald buff.
Ooh, couple kills traded back and forth. I'm hoping that the replay, the observers can give us a replay, but it was amazing that stole away the Rift Herald using his barrel that snuck underneath the unsuspecting Splyce members. Couple kills traded off the back of that as well. Schalke now sitting on a pretty healthy 1,000 gold lead.
And we'll get some damage on the bot lane to Xerxe staying down here. Let's see the play against, and notice how Amazing will send in the Q before he gets CC'd after this, and he's just gonna sit there while Nisqy turns around with Xerxe, deals a bit of damage onto it, and it will explode just about now.
And it was the Runic Echoes that ended up
It was the Runic Echoes.
And then he gets it to 6 HP. Last little proc.
Jungle difference, guys. Jungle
It's like
difference.
all planned, guys. I will die for this.
But then, of course, there was a fight ensuing. Nukeduck picked up another kill. Upset traded his life to give... Oh, no, it wasn't Kobbe that ended up securing the kill. Odoamne got it in the end.
Kobbe really wants these kills, but he's not getting them.
0-1 and 3 right now. The Vayne coming along nicely.
All right, so obviously we mentioned before, Vayne without TP, so they couldn't match that play for the first third of the game. They went over to Schalke, a large reason for why they have a goal lead. But the fact that he's actually, even on farm, he's going towards the rapid fire cannon now is what we expect based on the builds from Solo Q that we highlighted before here, Medic, and we're gonna get more fights here.
Amazing getting on to kaSing. Did use the Black Shield to keep himself safe, but you can't keep yourself safe from 3 members of Schalke. Upset flashed forward and gets the kill in the end.
I actually want to mention this. It was something Vedius and myself looked a lot at in the VODs with Splyce. They have a habit of leaving kaSing alone in the river. Now, it might not be the Splyce team. It might actually be kaSing himself, who sometimes wants to stay a little bit longer for a quick position for a pick, or maybe to secure vision. Mid lane Nukeduck is going all in, but he's stepping back just at the right time. But it's actually something that's happened quite a bit for them, where it feels like, okay, they're trying to kill a ward. Everyone goes back to the lane to start pushing, except for kaSing. And then Splyce will lose their support.
And he didn't have his flash up. He didn't respect the ability for Schalke to punish. And it's just that awareness, right? Like, do you have the vision in order to make this play? No. Well, you end up getting punished for it. Now, Schalke, they secured the top lane tier 1. They now have the Rift Herald and have the Rise set on the tier 1 in the mid as well. And so far this early game, going the way Schalke won. We talked about win conditions. We talked about how Leblanc wants to get ahead in this early game. And even though for the first 10 minutes nothing happened, it's not the end of the world. It's a like 0% panic radar for Schalke. And so far they found those early kills.
Can they find Kobbe?
Good.
Jump onto Kobbe. Kobbe, the black shield, that's not enough. Nukeduck.
They found him,
That's a solo kill onto Kobbe from Nukeduck.
Well, that's a Vayne versus a Leblanc. She does have the completed Luden's Echo, and that's what happens when you land the full combo.
Well, we also mentioned this earlier, how out of laning phase it's actually really difficult to play Vayne and find places on the map to farm. He just sat top lane trying to secure a jungle camp, but you're so slow at everything you do. It's so easy to get enough time as a team playing against Vayne to set up the rest of the map, so you're not losing anything when you go top lane where Kobbe's like, guys, give me 2 minutes to push this wave, but it's never gonna happen. And Nukeduck just destroys him in basically one combo.
Once again, we see Nukeduck in a side lane pushing these towers down while the rest of his team plays somewhere else on the map. It worked out well for them last game, seems to be working out for them this game as well. And I think the question now becomes, can actually Splyce deal with Nukeduck? He has a 3-level advantage over Kobbe. Maybe Nisqy can trade with him.
Whew. I mean, Nisqy would be fine in terms of the 1v1, but you never really want your Cassiopeia from the side lane. Because she's pretty slow, she doesn't have a lot of dashes, and her wave clear is pretty solid along with the zone control she provides. You kind of want to keep her group with the team, and that's kind of what Splyce are working towards, but it is that late game team fighting that they have their eyes on, and also that Baron threat. They have a very fast Baron taking team, and even though Schalke have a big lead, they do have to be conscientious of if they for a second lose vision control around that objective, Splyce could look to very quickly steal it away.
Should never happen for Schalke, but it can.
Shouldn't.
We have seen them do this earlier. Definitely been an issue before, but as you highlighted here, Nisqy is kind of the one who can push out the waves, so it feels like he has to be almost everywhere on the map. But the problem is when he goes top lane without these turrets, and if Nukeduck is there, the moment he jumps forward, Nisqy has to run because he doesn't know if anyone else is showing up.
Yeah.
You know, at bot lane, Xerxe got that turret. I feel like the Sion pick, we might have hyped it up slightly more than what it's been able to do. But it was just based on a ban into a first rotation pick. I think Xerxe said, you know what, I'll happily trade Sion for Poppy because it's my Poppy.
Yeah, Xerxe's pretty happy with that. Undefeated on the Poppy across the course of this split, so in a very strong position. Schalke are about 5,000 gold ahead as we crest the 20-minute mark, and well in shape to take the second game of this series. Splyce still looking to scale, still have the Vayne and the Cassio. They have options, but they need to delay Schalke if they're going to come to fruition.
Well, that's their ultimate goal, but you can already see that it is a 4-tower advantage in favor of Schalke. They have full vision control across the entirety of the river. Baron is alive, and I don't expect them to force it in the near future, but preventing Splyce from being able to get near that objective is definitely what they want to be doing. And we'll see now how well Schalke can use this mid-game spike, because last game it was a little slow from the side of Splyce.
In this game, you have 3 fully completed items on your AD carry. And you're looking at a Vayne on the other side with 1.5.
Yes.
And a Vayne who has to sit mid lane against this AD carry, by the way, who will get pushed back all the time. She can never properly trade as long as Upset is sitting there and respecting where Kobbe is going to be on the map, and he can see the Vayne. Like, let's see. Okay, now he can hit the minions a little bit, but what's happening elsewhere on the map? Top side, maybe they do something. Bot lane, they can look for something. Like, there are so many ways for Schalke to play this because they're against a comp that really can't defend.
And you talked about how hard it is for Vayne to farm. Just now, Kobbe got level 11. He was 2 levels down against Upset. And levels are really valuable, especially in the mid game. We already saw how much damage Nukeduck could do before. You mentioned it, Medic, the 3-level advantage, and now Nukeduck.
Flash away, Nukeduck with the second charge of that W. He'll get to safety.
Did not get hit by the poison. That was pretty huge for Nukeduck. Obviously, still had the flash available.
Schalke
now we get the
here.
answer.
If they can get it, amazing coming in from the side. They know there's no flash on Nisqy. Can't jump forward with that miasma down, and Nisqy plays well to keep himself safe.
Turns out amazing. Much more afraid of snake bites than he initially thought. Walk back away from that one, but still maintaining control over the top side jungle. They constantly get the mid push, which means that they're always the first ones to roam. And while Nisqy was close to getting a solo kill onto Nukeduck, he wasn't quite able to pull it off.
He's gonna be mad. He finally had full vision of all Schalke players. He knew there's a bit of time here for me to try and all in. And then the mobility of a LeBlanc is what keeps her alive. Kobbe still trying to get to his second item. After this, he needs an eye edge, which is still a very expensive item for him to get. I think at this point, Splyce need to hope for an actual fight where Kobbe picks up a bunch of kills. That, to me, feels like the only way back in the game for this AD carry. He's not going to get enough time to farm. So it's up to everyone else around him to actually carry before he gets to 3 items right now. And that is a big problem for Splyce.
It's something that's worked out for Splyce in the past, though. I look back to Spring as we see a fight erupt in the mid lane. Lots of damage onto Xerxe. He's going to survive with the Subjugate. Keeps himself alive. Heal use as well from Kobbe. Maybe this is the fight they need. They get one. Nisqy kills Upset. Teleport in behind them as well. And VandeR and Amazing might be out of position. Nukeduck with the flank. Petrifying Gaze came out too early from Nisqy. The stun does lock him against the wall. VandeR tries to cleanse away from Odoamne, but that Sion is not giving up any ground at all. Nukeduck caught up towards the top side here as well, but Splyce might look towards the Baron.
But now 2 members are dead from Schalke. Splyce can push out mid and gain control around the Baron. They have the right stun on Nukeduck, though. Nisqy needs to be careful.
Gonna get knocked up. There's the Black Shield as well. Nisqy keeps himself alive with the barrier. Can he get enough damage down? No! Nukeduck takes him out, and then Nukeduck falls to Kobbe. There's a kill. There's a shutdown for the Vayne.
Yeah, this is so huge for Splyce. We literally just said they need a fight where Kobbe picks up kills. Otherwise, they're gonna keep sitting here and just losing turrets without being able to do anything. Schalke forced the engage. It looked great. Look, they were gonna kill the Trundle instantly, but Xerxe just gets out and does not go down.
And the crucial mistake comes from Upset as he tries to jump in for that kill onto the Miasma. Nisqy sees the opportunity with a good binding from kaSing.
And just missed a Q before this that would have killed Xerxe before any of this actually happened. I think Nisqy's doing the right thing, expecting the jump from Nukeduck to try and stun him instantly. They've already won the fight at this point. The only one who can do something is, of course, the Leblanc. They don't want to face check onto him, even though they land the binding, and eventually they do pick up another kill. Shutdown for Kobbe. It was a 4-kill Leblanc right there for Schalke.
That is a lot of burst coming out from the Leblanc. Does end up getting that kill, as you highlighted, Deficio. But more importantly, 2 kills went on to Kobbe. The Vayne, now 2, 2, and 4, completed the rapid-fire cannon and a BF sword. Splyce have their eyes on that late-game teamfight win condition. And it is now a lot more realistic than it was before.
And in the last game, it was Triple Infernal happening. In this game, it's been Oceans and Cloud Drakes. Obviously, Schalke have not secured them, but it's not been the same kind of thing where they could focus on securing some Drake like the Infernal one, where they could use that to gain a better late game for themselves. They were not actually valued getting any of the current ones, trying to instead get something on the top side, as we saw much, much earlier. And it might be a battle of the AD carries all of a sudden. One is a Vayne, however.
Yeah, you have to look at both these AD carries as key carries for their team. Upset across the course of the split, 7 games on this Ezreal, 5-2, has been a player that, as the franchise man for Schalke, has really stepped up. Kobbe, on the other hand, you look back to Spring Split, you look back to the start of that, he was the main carry for this team, and he has consistently been performing for Splyce.
And you look at the statistics, the goal percentage, very even for both teams, or for both AD carries rather. The damage percentage both very high, but what's also really important to recognize is how impactful these 2 players have been in these late game fights. Think back to that Fnatic versus Splyce matchup. We talked about it earlier. Kobbe was one of the key reasons why they were able to stall out so long against that squad. Now he's on a Vayne, whereas Upset, he gets his signature champion. 5-2, you mentioned it, Medic. He's so comfortable, especially in these late game fights, that you can never count this man out, even in the late game.
And he's gonna look back at that last fight and be so angry, because that Q that just went wide against Xerxe when he was actually just standing right in front of him was what actually made him jump forward like he's done in the past and put himself at risk. Nukeduck jumping in.
Oh, almost kills Nisqy. Can't quite do it. Odoamne is looking for the flank as well. He's going to use the Unstoppable Onslaught just to get himself back underneath this tower. It's chunked out just a little bit, but Nisqy has to back away, Xerxe has to back away, and we have to remember, Schalke are still 4,000 gold ahead in this game.
And while Upset will be very important for Schalke's success, Nukeduck is going to be pivotal too. Deficio, you talked about how the idea of Leblanc falling off in the late game, yes, it can be very difficult for her to play these late game team fights, but what you just saw is exactly what she wants to do. It doesn't matter if she gets a kill or not. If you take 80% of a target's HP and just force them back, sieging and taking objectives becomes that much easier.
Yeah, and that's why I actually like her scaling, because she can keep doing this in the game. No squishy target can get enough MR to stop this kind of burst from Nukeduck. Ooh, Kobbe, that's a big hit onto him. Did not get stunned. No Black Shield around. And this mid lane turret is very low.
Shot barrage. Oh, that's a little bit of a chunk as well. Kobbe forced back 200 HP on him, but this mid lane tower has to fall. Upset He's the one who's jumping forward. He's the one that's landing those Mystic Shocks and chunking out Splyce. And it means that Nukeduck can be in a side lane, can get the pressure on another point of the map.
And one thing that I do want to highlight is something we talked a lot about before coming into this series, Deficio, is how Schalke use their side lanes. Because if you just look at the minimap, you'll see that Schalke do a great job of just constantly having minion waves barraging onto Splyce's base, and then they can use it to group up and start forcing objectives like the Baron.
No one's checking just yet. Xerxe tried, got forced out by Nukeduck. 2 blue trinkets are available, so they should be able to spot this on the side of Splyce as long as someone is making the call to go check it. And now that Schalke have been missing for so long, they should move in.
Not the quickest Baron on the side of Schalke. Splyce going to push forward. Schalke trying to turn it back around on towards Odo. There's the Glacial Fissure, the stun lock. VandeR solo. Nisqy in the backline still alive. Kobbe chunked out. VandeR down. Odo down as well, but he's going to go zombie form and he's going to wail away on Vizicsacsi. Nisqy stepping up. Nukeduck looking for that flank. Can't quite get it. Upset. Caught out, but he gets away. Nisqy with the chase. Landing the bangs in the back of the franchise man. Kobbe trying to escape from Nukeduck here. Nukeduck has nowhere to go. The Condemn doesn't quite connect. Nukeduck will survive for now.
I think just before this, kaSing landed a max range binding onto Upset that forced the QSS, and then he flashed after, which meant Nisqy could actually get onto him with the Cassiopeia, take down the AD carry of Schalke, and once again, Baron did not die. Splyce keep buying time. Infinity Edge should be completed very soon for Kobbe, and they've managed to get past a very rough mid game where we highlighted before. 3 items on the AD carry of Schalke, 1.5 on the side of Splyce, and yet they still did not lose the big objective.
Whew, really close game once again between Schalke and Splyce. This has been one of our most competitive playoffs, and we've only just began as we do jump into this fight. You can see that it all starts off with really a battle between 2 of the big bruisers, and Odo goes down just as quickly as Braum does.
Nukeduck wants to get into the back line, but he can't in time. And now look at the binding from kaSing. Flying over the wall onto Upset here. Max range, he is too late. That means he forces the QSS out of himself, and then he has to flash after. And what happens when Nisqy goes onto him? Well, there's no E, there's no flash. He's not going to survive, and suddenly the AD carry is dead.
And Kobbe using absolutely everything at his disposal to get away from Nukeduck, who is hunting him down.
Oh, whoa!
But he finds
Goodbye, Kobbe!
The Huntress becomes the hunted as Nukeduck finally finds himself the one shot. Kobbe without the heal and no escapes means that Schalke now have 5 members running it down mid.
Level 16, 3 items completed, a ton of magic penetration on his side, almost dealing true damage against Kobbe right there. And it doesn't matter you're losing a bunch of fights if Nukeduck can keep doing this. He's right now hard carrying Schalke.
It's the year of the Duck as Schalke push for this inhibitor. 30 minutes in, they're going to break the base of Splyce. They get the inhib. Splyce cannot answer without their AD carry, and now Schalke finally have found a use for this 5,000 gold advantage, and Nukeduck just played that perfectly.
So that was a mimic of the distortion into
W.
the sigil into E. Those 3 abilities, and he was able to one-shot.
Oh, he's trying again. Kobbe, come to the brush.
But they should have spotted him out on that control ward. So far, no pings have come down.
Depends how he got there.
Yeah.
If he just walked back from the inhibitor when they took it, he could have just stayed in that bush. Nisqy.
You've got to be suspicious here. Here we go.
He's coming.
Nukeduck going with a flank straight onto Kobbe. Black shield used, and Kobbe pops his ultimate as well. Goes invis for a moment. Nisqy maybe looking to rejoin this fight if he can.
Just look at the amount of pressure he applies by just showing up. Because Nisqy might think to himself, ooh, I gotta try and ult towards him. kaSing might try and bind towards him. They have to protect Kobbe every single time he moves forward. And that's kind of the power of a Leblanc who has the control of the map and can do this. Hide in brushes, move in from the side. Mountain Drake for Schalke. Can be important for securing the upcoming Baron. That's still not been killed for the first time in this game here. It's been one of those mid-games where we've been fighting instead of actually setting up for Baron all the time.
Now, we have talked a lot about Nukeduck. We've also got to keep our eyes on Nisqy because he's been integral in a lot of these fights. 4-2 and 4 so far in this game. He had a phenomenal game 1 on Syndra, and he's looking to do the same thing again on this Cassio. Her late game damage is disgusting on a single target, but it means that champions like Poppy can just melt, especially when you look at the amount of magic resistance he has. He is quite limited, and this Cassio will just melt through that front line much faster than Schalke can initially expect. So they have to play these fights cautiously because in a straight up 5v5 where 2 just play front to back, Splyce will just wipe the floor with Schalke.
Well, second game in a row where we get to big late game team fights. Definitely been a more action-packed game too. A lot of people forcing engages on the side lanes, and
8 kills instead of 4.
I mean, it's a big difference.
Kills each.
Exactly, it's
true.
each. Before it was just 4 in total.
That's true, that's true.
So it is definitely a big difference here, but we're still in the late game now. And while Splyce are down, and while Nukeduck seems to be able to just one-shot people left and right, Splyce is still in this game. Yeah. Like, they have not lost more than just a single mid inhib.
And let's think about, like, look at that gold grab. It is a 6.3k gold lead in favor of Schalke, yet Splyce are still fighting back. They're challenging Schalke at every opportunity, and they are not making this a free quarterfinal for the side of Schalke.
It is important to note, however, if Splyce lose a single fight, game is most likely done. Schalke can then push into that base and get down the squishy Nexus turrets. They're starting up the Baron again with 2 members, Xerxe and Upset. Once again, Splyce around, blue trigger for Kobbe. Ooh, Nukeduck.
Schalke once again have those side lanes pushing in as well. We talked about pressure on the rest of the map. They can wait this one out a little bit as those waves push towards Splyce. Nukeduck jumps in, hits Odo, but not going to be the target you want at the moment. Kobbe has picked up his Hex Drinker as well, so maybe it's just a little bit safer against this LeBlanc.
It's so hard for Splyce, so they want long fights with Cassiopeia and the Vayne. They might get one.
Caught out, look at the shred! That is a very dead Gragas, and now Splyce can turn around. VandeR puts up the Unbreakable, Xerxe jumps in, only knocks away one, and it's the Trundle. That's not the one you wanted. Nukeduck, what can you do in this fight? Can you find the flank? Can you find the perfect moment to jump in? Not quite yet. Odoamne is on the chase, Xerxe trying to get away, but he's bound up in the dark binding, and now Schalke have to run.
The front line is dead for Schalke. Only the carries are left. Upset and Nukeduck have to make the plays if they want to stop Splyce getting this back.
They can do it. Nukeduck jumps forward, Upset landing Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot.
Yeah, Splyce cannot go Baron because then they might lose the entire base. All of Schalke staying around the mid lane is so important here with the super minion. They make sure Splyces go back, have to kill all the minion waves, and they can't get anything else.
And we highlighted it earlier. Whenever Schalke try to make a play, they make sure that their sideways are pushed in, and look at the pressure it created on the map. Nukeduck now looking for a pick!
Oh, can he kill kaSing? The ethereal chase, not enough through the Zhonyas. kaSing keeps himself alive for the moment.
Got to see that last fight, however, how quickly they can actually kill the front line of Schalke. Important note, though, is how Nisqy's always looking to Nukeduck. He put down the miasma here to try and stop Nukeduck from actually dashing into the back of Splyce. Let's see the moment again.
Just been so impressed with Nisqy in this game, but it all starts off with a binding at the start, combined with the pillar into Condemn, and they just melt through that front line. Then Xerxe tries to get the disengage and then lock down Poppy, but Nukeduck cannot get into the fight because kaSing is there, Odo is there, and that's when the front line starts to melt.
And then Nisqy just fully denies it with the pillar as well. And in the end, Xerxe will go down. Schalke, however, as we highlighted before here, they do not lose the Baron because of the setup on the map, because they have got that mid inhib killed already. Yeah, that's what you wanted. I mean, you sacrificed your first 30 minutes of the game to get this. So you better get it if you're Splyce.
You want that Vayne doing all the damage she can in these fights. Still, a 4,000 gold lead for Schalke, and there were just moments when, if you're a Splyce fan, you're probably looking at this game and you're thinking it's very reminiscent of Game 1. You're getting to these late game team fights, you're winning them, but you're not getting anything out of them.
It's true, but if you're a Splyce fan, you've been here before.
Yeah.
You're still looking at the clock saying, we're not even at 45 minutes yet.
It's early game.
How are we
It's
going to
early
win?
game.
Yeah, we have 10 more minutes to go before Splyce really starts playing League of Legends. And it's just been their style. Like, they don't want to risk too many things in the early game. And also with this draft, they were kind of, you know, risking falling very far behind, which they did. By the fact they still didn't lose a Baron. 35 minutes in, it's been huge.
So the Baron starts up once again by Xerxe and Upset. Splyce grouping up as 5, trying to get the push in. Means that they are aware that this is going on. Will they be able to get into the pit and stop it?
8,000 HP on it. Xerxe already down to half HP, but has the subjugate. Nukeduck looking for the flank, no ward in there. Odoamne is going to jump away. Nukeduck leaps away as well with the distortion. Baron resets.
That's a big ulti use from Odoamne. His engage tool is now gone, and Xerxe and Upset are still on top of the Baron.
How many times have we seen Xerxe step up in this sort of situation, looking for that keeper's verdict? Watch the Poppy ultimate. Nukeduck still has the flank, but there's control ward there, and Nisqy knows that Nukeduck is there. 5,000 HP left on the Baron. Splyce trying to fight this one, but Nukeduck still looking for that flank if he can find it. Can't quite find it yet. 5,000 HP still on that Baron. Schalke have stopped it for the moment. They're just keeping it aggroed.
This is very tense. So many summoner spells are available, and Odo's ulti is actually almost back up.
Splyce in this moment. This is where you can win a series. You go 2-0 behind. That's not what you know. Nukeduck's got caught. Kobbe looking for the kill here. They find it, and Nukeduck is down, and now Schalke have to run for the wins. Splyce can look for the Baron if they want.
It's
another binding. Upset. QSS gets himself out of that, but here comes the unstoppable onslaught. Look at that. Nisqy knocked away by Xerxe, perhaps. That's what Schalke need to win this fight. VandeR puts up the unbreakable. Upset on the backline, just raining hell down with the Mystic Shots. kaSing almost goes down. VandeR will be the next to fall. Jumps away. away, keeps himself safe, but Odo says not today. He gets one. The stun landing from Upset. Amazing caught out in the midst of it all, and Splyce find the perfect fight. Vizicsacsi tries to come into the end. Upset flashing forward. He thinks he can do something in this moment. Nisqy! Hello, playoffs, Nisqy! Hello, Splyce! And goodbye, Schalke, not fear!
Splyce with a massive team fight against Schalke, find themselves 4 kills, will make their way towards the Baron. This is the late game win condition of Splyce. Schalke fans get into panic mode.
Oh, kaSing flashing in, getting the bind, and Nukeduck jump back into it and ends up dying.
Ooh, good binding there from kaSing, but fatal mistake from Nukeduck enables Splyce to have the numbers advantage and dive straight onto the backline. Xerxe does what he can by knocking Nisqy out of the fight, but then Splyce, they come in from the chase. Initially, things are looking pretty bad for Splyce because they think with Upset getting a lot of free damage off on the backline and the rest of Splyce kind of being separated, they can't get those kills, but poor positioning there from Amazing enables Splyce to get the rest of these kills. And the rest is just cleanup.
Oh, Nisqy with the final flash, and you can see Upset. He is raining so much damage down in this fight, but Nisqy says, I can catch him, I can flash forward. Splyce have got the Baron off the back of that. They're looking to catch up Nukeduck in this bottom lane as well. Inhib respawned in the mid for Splyce as well. The gold perfectly even. kaSing not burst down by Nisqy, by Nukeduck. Oh, Kobbe though, not in the best of spots. Oh, he dodges back. He dodges back and keeps himself safe. He was invisible. And here comes the flank. Upset, you need to get away from Odoamne. The cleanse. Glacial Fisher used just in time. There's still a tower down here for Schalke, but Upset
got him.
Knocked up. He's done. And now perhaps Splyce will just look for the tower dive. They've got the tanks. They've got all they need. But they decide for the moment they want to back away.
Welcome to playoffs, baby. Splyce with some fantastic...
Oh, what? No!
It's a boss! In the hype moment.
Oh, it looks like Xerxe was just about to die.
Caught under the tower.
He's definitely dead.
He's so dead.
It's gonna be 2 kills for Splyce. We have definitely reached the late game now. They waited so long to get here, where now they actually have damage from 2 carries. Of course, Nisqy has done it all game long, but finally the Vayne is able to kill people.
And I just find it so hilarious, Deficio. You made the point like 35 minutes into the game. Splyce fans thinking, "What do you mean? We're not worried. It's not even the early game yet." And then we get to the Baron. It comes down to such a big fight, and then it was kaSing that makes that clutch play flash into binding. This guy throughout the split has not really stood out, but when we always thought about some of the great performances he's had, it has always been on these range supports and on Morgana to make this kind of a play, to have that bravado to flash onto a Leblanc was exactly the way in which you want to start that fight and get a big team fight.
And he's landing like 3 or 4 bindings a fight as well.
Yeah, he got the one on Upset earlier that also was a huge win when Schalke was supposed to win every single fight. Now it suddenly feels like they can't actually win the team fights against Splyce anymore. And again, this is why we look at this series and say, you know what, this is probably 5 games, because you get teams who can win early game, but then they can't close out in time. They're not aggressive enough around the Baron. They're too afraid of potentially a steal, and they don't get the right engage.
Calculated, I would say.
It's just both teams have now shown that they can actually beat the other ones in the early game, but then the other team has shown they can defend long enough to reach the late game.
But you've also got to bring into question, it's just that use of a mid-game advantage. Both teams so far have demonstrated an inability to properly force. They have not been that super proactive team, especially when we think of Splyce. When we think about when they had a lot of success last split, it was off the back of Xerxe and these early game plays, and so far that hasn't been how these teams have been winning. It's come down to these clutch, crucial late game fights.
As epic as the game has been thus far, we are in a pause, and I just want to inform everyone as to what is going on. Players are reporting in-game audio bugs. Our league officials are investigating what's happening, if there is a root cause, if the bugs are happening. We'll find out exactly what's going on for you guys and tell you as soon as possible. But I'm just, this game has been epic, this series has been epic, and it seems like at any moment, any of these 10 players can stand up and be counted.
If you like late game fights, this is definitely the series for you right now. If you're more into insanely clean 20-minute Baron snowballs, you're not getting it yet. You might get it later, but it's why we get into late game so often now here in Game 1 and Game 2, of course. Fun fact, Splyce has not even killed a turret in this game. I just noticed from looking at it, being like, oh wait, that's an out of tier 1. They're actually about to take down after killing Xerxe. And that's kind of highlighting how far down they've actually been in this game, not being able to push anything.
But only 10 minutes ago, they were 6,000 gold behind. They're now leading by about 1,000 gold. This game seems to have totally turned on its head.
This team was down like 6,000 gold for like 15
from
minutes.
like 20 minutes into the game.
And that just kind of illustrates how, yes, Schalke they do a lot of things right. They apply pressure in the right places. They find good picks. But it's just been a couple of small mistakes. Upset, missing that Q, diving in, getting himself killed. Nukeduck not quite being able to find the flanks and kill off those crucial carries. Amazing, getting caught out of position.
We're going to take some time for league officials to investigate what's going on. So we're going to hand it over to Sjokz on the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Medic. I know, guys, we also want to see what's going to happen in that game because it has been absolutely bonkers up until this point. Now, I just want to pull up the team fight that happened for Splyce just before we went into a pause because I feel like in the last 10 minutes, we've really been seeing what Splyce can do with their comp if they get a team fight.
Yeah, Splyce, it's been a little insane because it started out, they have a lot of tools built to disengage these fights and turn with like the Gragas, or not the Gragas, but the Cassiopeia. They have these tools to try and turn it around, and it has worked for them when Schalke overcommitted, but now we're at a point where they're actually just going in fights with Nisqy's Cassiopeia flashing forward and really making things work.
Yeah, indeed. And we have to say we're a bit skeptical seeing the Vayne come out and seeing Splyce say, you know what, we know we did well in the early game in game one, but we're just going to throw our plan overboard completely. That's really not something you'd like to see, Djoko.
Yeah, I think they did well game one, and they should stick to their plans, because right now they went for a full late game, and at first I was like, okay, they are 5k down, it's going to be an easy one and a quickie, and at the end I saw that right now they scale, and now Vayne is like 4 item, and here we go. He's just carrying team fight, and I'm surprised that they managed to hold it, because it didn't look that good at first.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I agree that I really liked their draft in game one more than this draft, but now we're seeing again where it looks like the team built to last later in the game and outscale and win a 5v5 is succeeding more. And it's interesting too, because I remember back in Spring Split, no one was playing these split push champions. No one was really playing the Gnar or like a Leblanc wants to go into a side lane. Instead, it was all about the 5v5 because you couldn't actually have split push do anything because they just engage on you. And I feel like now we're seeing a lot more tanky initiators in these games, so we might be shifting back further in that direction.
Yeah, we will see. As said, let's take a look at that team fight around Baron for Splyce, and we've seen a couple of those. Now, we see when it gets in their hands, they're able to do something, and
yeah, you just have to watch this right here, because the kaSing tosses out the binding, and Nukeduck snaps back with the ultimate. He mixed up the order there on those ability, ends up paying his life for it. And at this point, it's a 5v4 for Schalke. Amazing still caught a little bit out. And again, another binding onto Upset. It was really kaSing at the start of this fight to carry, and Nisqy later on that hammered it home.
Yeah, this fight is actually going to go on for quite a while, because it looks like Upset is in the perfect position to get those Qs out from Ezreal and possibly pick up some kills, but in the end, Splyce turn around again.
Yeah, and then look at this too. Nisqy keeps this Gragas here grounded. Amazing, can't go anywhere. And then, again, continue to watch, because it's Upset who steps forward, and one Q from Nisqy lands. That's when he knows he can flash forward, 2Es, get the kill, and just murder Schalke.
Murder him completely. We had a bit of trouble after game one discerning who was actually having a huge game on either side, because it was such a weird one where Schalke came back and then had the backdoor win. In this one, I feel like patterns are emerging. I don't think Upset is having the best game of the series.
Yeah, he's getting
so
caught
far.
out,
He's
yeah.
getting caught out, but it's also in moments that you actually want him to flash forward and show that he has the confidence to do it. Unfortunately, when there is a Cassiopeia and a Vayne on the other side, it's gonna hurt. And I think on the other side, I also want to highlight just kaSing. His bindings has been on point. So it's interesting how in the further moments of this game, how it's getting drawn out, some players are really stepping up. Who has impressed you so far in this game, guys?
I mean,
sorry, I'm just too excited.
It's Nisqy, man. I'm literally backstage here, jumping up and down, smashing the desk. Because he flashes forward, he gets kills. It's just so much fun to watch, and it's really, really impressive too, because no one else has been willing to bring out the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, he's only one, yeah.
This is the playoff bust Nisqy that popped off in Copenhagen last split, and he's really showing up today.
Yeah, Djoko, is there anyone else who you think is
I mean, Nukeduck did a pretty good one-shot on Kobbe at one point. I was like, all right, what's the counterplay, you know? But yeah, it was pretty good, and I think he's playing the split push style, and it's working pretty well for him. But right now, they run out into the solution, the problem that Splyce are grouping. They can't really split push that much easier, and the thing is, like, straight 5v5, I think Splyce can't win. They should win.
They should,
and
yeah.
that's why I think now it's late game, and it's gonna be a toughie.
They also don't have that scenario that they had in game one where Schalke could fall back on the fact that that wave had pushed all the way up to the inhibitor, so they always were like threatening to go there. Now it's a different story. Now they haven't been able to grab, even though they had a bigger gold lead, they haven't been able to push all the way into the base just yet, which makes it a bit easier for Splyce to fight back in those games. Of course, guys, we're talking about it like Splyce won the game, but we don't know what's going to happen. We are currently still in a pause that is being investigated by league officials, initiated by FC Schalke 04 about in-game sound. So hopefully we will get an update fairly soon. But now you're Schalke. You pause because something's wrong, so you have to pause. You're not allowed to talk to each other. You're getting inside your own head, I think. So what is the plan now for Schalke? They know if they group, they lose. Where do they go?
I think they should play 3 lane and trying to force people to go on one side and play on the others and play with this extra TP, I think, like they did game one, and maybe hope to go for another backdoor. But right now, yeah, it seems complicated because they don't have this Shen who can give the extra help on side. And yeah, I think it's going to be harder this time.
Yeah, I also want to shine some light on a little bit of a lesser-known fact. A lot of times in these extended pauses, teams will be allowed to actually talk once the issue is identified. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, when it goes longer. So right now, like I saw Schalke saying some words, and maybe they're just communicating with the refs, but it gives them some time to think and eventually communicate about what is going on and what they need to set up as the plan.
In this case, I just got more information that members of Schalke, they reported that they had an in-game audio bug, but league officials have established there was in fact no bug. So in a minute, we will be getting into the game. I'm just going to see here where we are now. So after reviewing in shadow play, the league officials have determined that there is, in fact, no bug. The sound effect for Sion's ultimate did play, and that there was no bug. So they were under the impression that the sound for Sion's ultimate didn't play.
Yeah, everyone was just screaming way too loud. So they're like, wait, he ulted? Wait a second. And that, of course, was the insane flank from Odoamne, who actually came all the way behind and singled out Upset. He died again at the start of that engage.
I'm not going to call anyone out as to what they heard or didn't hear. It is, of course, their right to pause, but the game will resume very shortly. We said it already. For Schalke, maybe try and change the pattern of the game. Don't get baited into those full 5-on-5 team fights. How does Splyce win this, Djoko?
I think they just need to brute. They just go bulldog one game, bulldoze it, and just hope that Morgana will land a Q or something. And I think it just easy comp at this point.
Not hope even. It looks like,
he will.
Yeah,
for sure.
kaSing is on fire.
And really, don't get one-shot by Nukeduck. If you're the backline, if you're Kobbe or Nisqy, you can't immediately die. Otherwise, the fight is probably lost.
The mission right now for Splyce is just protect Kobbe, please. You just spend everything for him, and he's gonna carry.
Yeah, because in this fight we just watched, they get Nukeduck, right? But that doesn't really happen all that often when you're playing against a Leblanc who is fed and who is experienced on playing the champion. I think the fact that he went back into that binding and just the fact even that they found him was pretty out there. So let's see if Splyce can go again. Well, we're ready to get back into game. Let's find out who wins this game, Splyce or Schalke 04.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Just as an update for everyone, members of Schalke 04 reported they were unable to hear the Sion ultimate in the prior teamfight that has just happened. After reviewing the shadow play, league officials determined the sound effect for Sion's ultimate did play, and there was no game bug. We will be resuming the game where it paused, which is with Vizicsacsi underneath the tower, not in the best of shapes.
Definitely going to die in just a second when we get back into the game, and Splyce will secure their first turret. And now this is such a tough spot for Schalke because they pause, it's not successful for them. They've been losing 2 fights in a row. They're now watching a late game Splyce run towards their base.
Yeah, Splyce have the Baron, they have a 3,000 gold lead. They're looking for these towers down towards the bottom side. Upset still 20 seconds away, Chachi 40 away as well. Schalke looking to defend.
Yeah, so Splyce now 5 members strong. We heard Djoko say it on the desk, just brute force. There's nothing standing in their way. Wave clear on the side of Schalke is pretty much non-existent. They might look to just end the game right now.
Yeah, they're looking for it with that Baron buff pushing in. Double cannon minion here as well. Upset on his way, 8 seconds away. Amazing. Grounded underneath the tower. One Nexus tower is going to fall. Splyce have turned this game right around on his head. Odoamne just standing in front of Nukeduck, and Splyce are going to strike back in this quarterfinal.
Very quick end to the game from the side of Splyce. They literally did bulldoze it down the bot lane. Sion leading the forefront.
And this game, man, this game really, there's a lot for Splyce after losing game 1 when they felt like they were actually controlling the game to a backdoor into then losing the early game, losing the mid game with your Vayne comp, a big risk, big gamble in the draft, and when you get back and you start winning teamfights. The big one wasn't the one in the bot lane, it was the one at Baron. kaSing lands the binding onto Nukeduck, he jumps back into it, they kill him, they get a bunch of extra kills plus a Baron. That's when suddenly you're reaching late game, and that's kind of the thing. This game, what actually kept Splyce in the game was so often that they landed crucial CC when Schalke were trying to set up a pick onto them. We saw it in the mid lane, saw it at the Baron right now, and that is basically what managed to actually win fights when they shouldn't win any fights.
So, do we think changes need to be made in the draft where it's now just full late game? If both these teams struggle to close out with early game leads, do you then just change your game plans and just be, well, so far twice now we've gone into late game team fights. Do you then just draft towards that, or do you still have confidence in your ability to potentially play through an early game?
I think Schalke's late game was perfectly fine in this game here with the current comp they had. Like, obviously hard against the Vayne once you reach full late game, but
sure,
you can't fully draft around just the Vayne specifically.
I mean, obviously, yes, of course.
I think if you're Schalke, you're going to look back at this game, and I'm going to ignore the very, very last team fight that happened. But before that, when Upset was sitting on 3 items against 1.5, who ended up jumping forward and getting caught? It was actually Upset. Yeah. Where it really hurt the team. I'm not just fully blaming him, but those were moments where he needed to fully outperform Splyce, and he didn't.
He died the most time he's died all split in this game as well. Died 6 times, has only died up to 4 previously, did it in the tiebreakers versus G2. And Upset is a player that has a track history of not performing incredibly well in best of 5s. I cast him in the Challenger Series qualifiers where he got 4 kills and died 10 times in 3 games. We cast him in the promotion tournament where he wasn't the key carry for the team. You wonder maybe if he needs to take a little bit of a step back, not be so aggressive, and actually just play the way he's played all split.
Well, I agree in the sense that Upset did make some crucial mistakes in this game. I think it's very valid criticism, but at the same time, my eyes kind of fall on amazing. Yeah. Game 1, did anyone see his impact or relevance in that game? And then coming into game 2, his Gragas did not have the best performance, and his last few Gragas performances have been poor. I had the opportunity to chat with him yesterday, and I was like, so, like, I'm reviewing through some of your stats. What do you think of your Gragas? And he goes, well, I mean, stats-wise, it doesn't look good. I know I can play better than that. I know that it is a comfort pick for me, but typically he prefers the Sejuani and engage-style tanky jungler. So far his Gragas and his jungle impact this game has not been impactful in my eyes.
I think, though, Schalke actually did a great job of getting ahead. I think they had all the tools to win. I think they can look back and say, if we copy this exact draft, Schalke will be happy. They just need to fix up the play around Baron, and then some of those mistakes, where you get caught by a max range binding, you miss a Q on a Trundle, so you jump forward, and then suddenly you're on the turret, and you end up losing that fight. So like some of those moments, that's what really decided the game for Splyce. If you can get rid of that for Schalke, you can go with the exact same draft. You have players who are good enough to then finish the game and actually get ahead 2-1.
Well, and the moment is still 1-1. We've had some crazy games so far, and after the break, there's more action as this thriller of a series continues. Don't go anywhere. Perhaps the Rift Tower's been a little bit of a bait. Upset knocked into the wall. Kobbe on the chase. The Vayne spotting has begun. He gets one. kaSing caught up towards the side as well. A counter trade. Schalke trying to turn it back around on towards Odo. There's the Glacier Fisher. The stun lock. VandeR solo. Nisqy in the backline still alive. Kobbe chunked out. VandeR down. Odo down as well.
Who is hunting him down?
Oh, whoa! But goodbye, Kobbe! In this moment, this is where you can win a series. You go 2-0 behind, that's not what you know. Nukeduck's got caught. Kobbe looking for the kill here, they find it. Amazing caught out in the midst of it all, and Splyce find the perfect fight. Vizicsacsi tries to come into the end, Upset flashing forward. He thinks he can do something in this moment. Nisqy! Odoamne just standing in front of Nukeduck, and Splyce are going to strike back in this quarterfinal.